Meeting is being recorded.
Welcome to the October 27, 2020 board meeting. My name is Greg Lippy, President of the board. Before we convene, I advise all individuals observing or participating in the meeting that the meeting is being conducted consistent with the provisions of Governor Gavin Newsom's Executive Order N-2920. Participants watching the webcast will only be able to observe the meeting. Anyone interested in participating in the meeting must join the WebEx meeting. Information and instructions are posted on our website. All lines are currently on mute. As I facilitate this meeting, lines will remain on mute until I ask the moderator to open the lines for public comments. I will announce when we are accepting public comment. I've advised staff to allot 2 minutes to each individual providing comments. This approach is necessary to facilitate this meeting and ensure the board has the opportunity to complete its necessary business. I appreciate everyone's understanding and patience as we navigate this meeting format. Before we get started, will staff moderating the meeting please provide general instructions? Moderator?
This is the moderator. When the president calls for public comment, I will open what we call the Q&A panel. In order to access the Q&A panel, you will click on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Once done so, you can type in, I would like to make a comment in the ask field, and you will be submitting that to all panelists. We will take public comments in the order that they are received. As the president mentioned, you will be limited to a 2-minute comment, and I will provide a 10-second reminder warning. At the end of that 2 minutes, I will mute your microphone. We will be providing instructions on the screen at that time. Back to you, President. And President Limpy, just as an FYI, Ms. Veal is with us. She is a panelist. However, her audio does not seem to be connected at this time. So I am not sure if she can hear us or not, but we will not be able to hear her.
Hi, this is Ann Sodergren. We're going to need to take a brief pause. The president has lost his connection to the meeting. It'll be just a moment. Thank you.
This is the moderator while we're waiting. Vice President Veal, if we can do a quick mic check for you.
Hi. Yeah, I don't know what happened before. I was listening, but I don't know why it didn't connect. So yeah, I am now part of it.
Perfect. It was probably just slow connecting.
I actually hung up and redialed in, but thank you.
Do we have a quorum? Great. Do we have a quorum?
We are waiting for President Lippy to log back in. He had some technical difficulties.
Okay.
President Lippy, I've promoted you to a panelist. If we could do a quick mic check.
I'm back.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay. Sorry about that. As indicated on the agenda, it is my intention for the board to convene in closed session after deliberating on the open session item this afternoon. Due to technological limitations, recess of the meeting will not be broadcast. Recess for the day will immediately follow closed session, and there will be no other items of business discussed until tomorrow. If any board member needs to leave the meeting early, please announce yourself that you are leaving. We need that for the minutes. I will now take a roll call to establish a quorum. And here we go. Cheryl Butler.
Here.
Thank you. Jason Weiss.
Here.
Thank you. Jig Patel.
Here.
Thank you. Debbie Veal.
Here.
Thank you. Ryan Brooks. Not yet. Okay. Ricardo Sanchez.
Here.
Thank you. Albert Wong.
Here.
Thank you. Shirley Kim.
Here.
Thank you. Sung Oh.
Here.
Thank you. Maria Serpa.
Here.
Thank you. And I'm here too. Okay, so we've now established a quorum. The board will now entertain any public comments for items not on the agenda. To facilitate the portion of the meeting, as I previously announced, staff will open the phone lines for individuals to provide the opportunity for public comment. You are not required to identify yourself, but you may do so. As we open the lines, I remind everyone that the board cannot take action on these items except to decide whether to place an item on a future agenda. Members, following review of the public comments for this agenda item, I will ask you to comment on what, if any, items should be placed on a future agenda. Now let's open the lines for public comments, moderator.
This is the moderator. I've opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. Enter "I would like to make a comment" into the Ask field and submit it to all panelists. At this time, we have a request for comment from Lindsay Gollahorn. Lindsay, your microphone is unmuted. You will have 2 minutes.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, President Lippy and board members. This is Good afternoon. This is Lindsay Gollahorn with the California Retailers Association and the National Association of Chain Drugstores. I'd just like to request that an item be added to a future board meeting agenda, specifically consideration of pursuing a waiver and/or a statutory change to allow pharmacy technicians to administer all vaccinations, not just flu vaccinations. CRA and NACDS do strongly support the proposal on your agenda for tomorrow from Licensing Committee to pursue authorization for pharmacy technicians to perform flu vaccinations. But we believe it is equally important to allow pharmacy technicians to administer all vaccines. Data across the country has shown that there has been a sharp decrease in non-flu routine vaccinations during the COVID-19 pandemic. Routine vaccinations for adults and children really shouldn't be delayed. Such delays could lead to outbreaks of deadly diseases that are now preventable, which really is the last thing we need right now during COVID. And as you know, pharmacies are easy, widespread access points for people to receive vaccinations at their convenience and to avoid institutional settings. So we believe allowing pharmacy technicians to administer all vaccines is a logical approach that will improve patient safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Our next public commenter is Rita Shane. Rita, your microphone is unmuted. You will have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, members of the board. Good afternoon. This is Rita Shane from Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. I actually submitted a slide deck and I have 2 minutes, so I'm not going to go through it. But the issue is white bagging, which is the practice of many payer payers in California and across the country, but specifically in California, are putting in policies requiring that for infusion therapies, specifically cancer and other infusion therapies that patients need to for their underlying disease management, be obtained from a specialty pharmacy that would ship the drug to the hospital or other infusion program without any information related to how the product was obtained or integrity. This specifically is in conflict with some of the state board regs, 4024 and 4059, because the products are being not dispensed to us, but they're coming from a payer designated pharmacy, and they're not going directly to the patient, which would also be an issue with respect to how the drugs are stored. What the issues here are not only multiple regulatory conflicts, also at the federal level, where in a hospital pharmacy, the drugs are supposed to be procured for the patients that are being treated on the premises. And this would be including the outpatient infusion programs. But beyond the not being able to verify the integrity of the product, there are many safety issues from a patient perspective. The patient needs emergent treatment due to cancer or a transplant rejection. We would have to wait for the drugs to arrive before we could even compound them. And then we couldn't assure again that the integrity of these products, which are mostly biologics, have been preserved.
10 seconds.
So in summary, I think based on the information that we've compiled that we would like to share at a subsequent meeting, this is a significant public health issue and also in conflict with regulatory requirements.
Can you call that white bagging? Oh, would you let her respond?
Yes, it is white bagging, and I did submit background material that I know it's not appropriate to go through at this time.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank you.
Our next public commenter is Mark Johnston. Your microphone is unmuted. You will have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, board. This is Mark Johnston from CVS Health. As part of the authority to furnish limited quantities of PrEP and PEP medications, 4052.02 and 03 permit pharmacists to order HIV tests. These same statutes also require pharmacists to provide these medications consistent with CDC guidelines. CDC guidelines in turn recommend the following baseline values, which are also realized to be the standard of care: renal function tests, liver function tests, negative pregnancy test, STI screening, and documented Hep B and C status. As 4052.02 and 03 neglect to consider the ordering of these tests, we turn to 4052.11 for ordering authority, which states, a pharmacist may order and interpret tests for the purpose of monitoring and managing the efficacy and toxicity of drug therapies. Can the board confirm that the ordering of these baseline lab values fits within the statutory requirement of being ordered for monitoring and managing the efficacy and toxicity of drug therapies, even though they would occur prior to the furnishing of drug therapy? If so, CVS Health will initiate a rollout of our HIV prophylaxis furnishing program to the first of our 1,200 California locations. If not, we respectfully request that the board fix the statutory conflict and our program will be delayed until such enactment. I'm hopeful this can be discussed during tomorrow's proceedings on ordering, but if not, I ask that it be addressed by the board staff or at least at a future board meeting. Time is of the essence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
And our last request at this point is from Ryan, and I apologize for the pronunciation of your last name. Not sure if it's Enderle or Enderley. Unmuted, and you will have 2 minutes.
Did we lose him?
Oh, nope, stand by. He's also calling in. Okay.
Okay.
Try now, Ryan.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. So I am a pharmacy director for the Department of State Hospitals, NAPA, and calling in regards to the remote processing waiver set to expire at the end of this week. So first, I want to thank the board for your hard work granting waivers related to the emergency declaration during these challenging times. I think it's been just a lot of work for everyone to stay on top of everything going on and develop and implement best practices. So thank you for your work on that. I saw that many waivers expiring in September were extended 3 months, but the remote processing waiver was only extended 1 month to the end of this month. And I would just like to advocate for the waiver. At our facility, it has allowed us to increase social distance while maintaining our patient care and even seeing an increase in some required reporting. So if anything, it may have improved the quality of our service from the information that I have available. It's been very appreciated by our pharmacists, and we see it as a valuable resource both during COVID and even afterwards. We see a role for remote validation for pharmacists after hours when the pharmacy is closed, if they're on standby, to be able to access new orders written by prescribers. And we feel like that could increase the quality of patient care as well. So just knowing that it was expiring at the end of the week, I wanted to call in to advocate and share our experience.
Ryan, you can request a site-specific waiver.
And I requested such a waiver in September. We were still waiting to hear back. So just want to cover all of our bases on the waiver.
Understood. I will check into it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, President Lippy.
We have no additional requests for public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
It is closed.
Okay. Okay, members, does anybody wish to make a motion to add any of these items to a future meeting?
President Lippy, this is Maria Serpa.
Yes.
I wanted to thank Dr. Shane for her comments on white bagging and to let the board know that this is to be considered by the enforcement committee. We have it planned as a separate meeting where that will be the sole topic. And I would encourage board staff to contact Dr. Shane that perhaps that she could assist in the presentations made to the committee.
Great. Thank you, Maria. Does anybody else wish to make a comment or make a
Hi, Greg. This is Song. I just wanted to say about the remote processing. Not sure if that is something that is already under consideration, and hopefully you can help us here. But if not, I think that should be considered, I believe, under licensing committee or enforcement. I'm not sure where it would go, but if wherever the committee that would be appropriate, I think that should be something we need to talk about as a whole.
Okay, well, right now what we're talking about is the waiver that's expiring. And it was a broad waiver, and we found that it wasn't being used a lot. So that's why we switch over to anybody wishing to request a site-specific waiver can do so. If you're talking about bringing something up for some kind of permanent basis, that's a different story. So why don't you and I discuss it offline?
Okay, that sounds good.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? That's it?
President Lippy, I would like to make motion to allow the technicians to provide all vaccinations.
Okay. Do we have a second on that? Anybody?
This is Debbie. I'll second that.
So
Okay.
just to clarify, is the motion to send the issue for discussion, or is it to go ahead and move forward on that?
It would be to add it to a future agenda. Is that correct?
That's correct.
For discussion and consideration.
Yes.
I do see that we should send that to.
licensing, since you'll hear tomorrow, we looked at one item we'll be talking about tomorrow.
Yep, that I was about to say that, Debbie. Yep.
Okay. Okay, we can put it on an agenda for licensing.
And, in regards to the PEP and PrEP question, I guess I'm not sure if that's an agenda item or if we need to take it to a licensing committee, because we just handled PEP and PrEP to make sure that we understand the question.
Well, Mark thought that it might be discussed tomorrow regarding the ordering, but I don't know if it fits in it or not.
I don't think it fits in any of the licensing agenda items, unfortunately.
Okay. All right. Then what would you like to do?
I'd like to propose that we move that. I'm thinking that's probably licensing because of PEP and PrEP, so
Okay.
move it to a licensing agenda.
Okay, that's your motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, do we have a second?
Can we also add staff to clarify what Mr. Johnson was talking about in relation to if the pharmacists have authority to order those tests that he mentioned?
Well, we can ask Mr. Johnson to explain it a little more. I'm willing to open it for that.
I mean, as I understood it, Song, I think what he's saying is 4052, one of those, I think it says we can order drugs, order tests for, drug toxicity, and I can't think what the other word is, but measurement of like blood.
Yeah, drug-related testing, like renal function and pregnancy tests and whatnot. But I thought what he was hoping for us to confirm is that that is sufficient for us pharmacists when they're ordering PrEP and PAP, that we can order those tests that he mentioned. I thought he wanted clarification, so I'm hoping
he
that
did. He wanted clarification that it fits
Yeah,
into.
here it's for the so it's 4052 while we were talking. It's not pregnancy test, but it's 4052 where it says efficacy and toxicity of drug therapies, because I don't think it's the HIV test he's after. Maybe he needs to get back on. I think it's the other tests when you are doing pre-exposure. There's all those liver function and all those kind of tests for the medication. That's I think what he is after.
Debbie, I'm going to ask him to come back and clarify it.
Okay.
This is staff. If it this is Anne. If it's helpful, I think that perhaps a way forward would be for staff to work offline with Mr. Johnston and understand what his question is. We can work with counsel to see what the law provides, and then provide the information back to the committee chair for licensing to determine whether or not action is required.
That's fine. That's fine.
Do you need a motion to do that, Anne, or can you just do it?
No, I understand what you guys would like us to do.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so what did we do here? We haven't voted on any of these motions. So we have a motion to move or to put the tech issue onto licensing committee. We have a motion to, well, actually, we don't have a motion. Maria said that they're going to be dealing with the white bagging issue at licensing. And the remote processing, I'm going to talk to him offline, I mean. So the only thing we have to move on here is the desire to place on the next licensing committee the issue of whether to allow pharmacy techs to be able to administer all vaccines. So we have a motion, we have a second. Are there any comments by the members? Okay. Let's open it up for comments by the public.
This is the moderator. I've opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. type "I would like to make a comment" in the ask field and submit it to all panelists. I will now pause a moment to allow time for submission. Seeing no requests, would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
It is.
Okay, it's time to vote on sending the issue of allowing pharmacy techs to administer all vaccinations to the licensing committee. I'm going to call your name and let me know if you vote yes or no. Maria Serpa?
Yes.
Maria? Yes, thank you. Albert Wong?
Yes.
Thank you. Sung Oh?
Yes.
Thank you. Shirley Kim?
Yes.
Thank you. Ricardo Sanchez?
Yes.
Thank you. Debbie Veal?
Yes.
Thank you. Jig Patel?
Yes.
Thank you. Jason Weiss?
Yes.
Thank you. Cheryl Butler?
I'm going to abstain.
Abstain, okay. Is Ryan Brooks here?
He has not yet joined us.
Okay, thank you. I will vote yes, so it passes. Thank you. Okay, moving along. Agenda item 3, members. The next item on the agenda is the approval of September 17th, 2020 board meeting minutes. Do any of you have any comments related to those minutes? Okay. No? Okay. Anybody want to make a motion before I take public comment?
Motion to approve the minutes of September 17th.
I'll second that.
Thank you. That was Ricardo making the motion,
Yes.
and the second was
Jig.
Jig. Okay. Thank you. Okay, let's open up for public comment.
This is the moderator. I've opened the Q&A panel for public comment. If you'd like to make a comment, please click on the Q&A icon at the bottom of the screen. Enter "I would like to make a comment" in the ask field and submit it to all panelists. We will allow just a couple moments for people to submit requests.
Okay, I think we can close it.
I will close it.
Thank you. Okay, with a motion and a second, it's time to vote. So I will first call Shirley Kim.
Yes.
Please. Thank you.
Oh, actually, sorry, abstain. I wasn't at the September 17th meeting.
Very good, thank you. Cheryl Butler.
Yes.
Thank you. Sung Oh.
Yes.
Thank you. Jig Patel.
Yes.
Thank you. Maria Serpa.
Yes.
Thank you. Albert Wong.
Yes.
Thank you. Jason Weiss.
Yes.
Thank you. Ricardo Sanchez.
Yes.
Thank you. Debbie Veal.
I'm going to abstain. I kind of had to step out halfway through, so I'm just going to abstain.
Okay, thank you. I vote yes. The minutes are approved. Okay, next item. Discussion and consideration of designating all or portions of the decision on the IV Solutions, Inc. versus California Board of Pharmacy as a precedential decision pursuant to Government Code Section 11425.60. Members, as included in the memo from Council, Ms. Smiley, the board, from Ms. Smiley, of course, the board can designate and rely on decisions as precedential. The process for such action is detailed in the memo. Also provided in the meeting materials is the procedural background information on the administrative case itself. I trust everyone had an opportunity to read the relevant meeting materials. I agree with the information put forth by Ms. Smiley, including the significance our action could have on future cases. I note the value in taking such action, including the benefit to licensees as well as the public. The memo provides a recommendation for our consideration with two exceptions, designating the remainder of the decision as precedential as detailed. I will now open discussion of this item to members. Members, in addition to your comments, I would welcome a motion should you believe such action is appropriate. Please remember to identify yourself before you begin speaking. Members? Any comments? Is there a motion?
President Lippy, I apologize. This is Anne. Should it be helpful? I do believe that Ms. Smiley is available to provide a bit of a summary of her memo, should that be helpful to members.
Okay, would members like that? Well, they can't all jump up and say so. Why don't we have her do it?
Okay. The summary, as you probably recall the case of the board members who were on, what we had was a very extensive decision by the ALJ. The board adopted the decision after reconsideration, and the petitioners filed a writ for mandamus alleging numerous errors. The trial court in Los Angeles denied the writ, which was upheld by the Court of Appeals. So basically, the case involved some novel questions with respect to the interpretation of Business and Professions Code Section 4301F. Basically, there were a lot of allegations of unprofessional conduct with respect to a pharmacy intentionally concealing information about the cost of its services at the outset of the patient relationship as required by its policies and procedures, and delays in its billings that were designed to conceal the charges being submitted to a patient's insurance company, among other charges. Part of the reason that the staff, after consultation with DCA counsel and also our liaisons with the Office of the Attorney General, believe that designating this case as precedential is important because it does give some good clarifications about the application of Section 4301 Subdivision F, including the fact that somebody, a pharmacy may be disciplined for failing to abide by its policies and procedures that are required by an accreditation standard as opposed to a rule or a statute, and that although the board disclaimed authority to set the prices that pharmacies charge, they can consider and discipline a pharmacy for deceptive pricing and billing practices under Business and Professions Code Section 4301F. The one aspect that we are not asking to be designated as precedential was there was one finding, factual finding 119, where the ALJ found, based on conflicting expert witness testimony, that the board did not establish its burden of proof with respect to establishing an industry standard that required a pharmacy to disclose its prices and status as an out-of-network provider of services to patients prior to taking on those services. The ALJ found that the board's expert witness offered no research or facts tending to show an industry standard. We're asking that this not be designated as precedential because we believe over time a new standard could develop or there could be additional facts that could establish such a duty based on all the facts and circumstances. But we do believe that this is an important decision to show both pharmacies, possibly how they should be disclosing their pricing and billing practices, and also give some important information to consumers so maybe they can ask some more informed questions about things like whether a pharmacy is in or out of network before choosing which one is going to provide services to it. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Okay, but the main issue was that there were deceptive practices.
Correct.
Okay. Members, does anybody wish to make a motion to make this a precedential decision?
Greg, I'll make the motion that we make this entire decision to be presidential, excluding factual finding 119 and legal conclusion 5D.
Very good.
And this is Cheryl Butler, and I second.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. Okay. Any more member comments? Okay, let's open up for public comment.
This is the moderator. I have opened the Q&A panel for public comment. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" in the Ask field and submit that to all panelists. At this time, we have a request for comment from Daniel Martinez.
Okay.
Danny, your microphone is unmuted. You will have 2 minutes.
Thank you, board members. Danny Martinez with the California Pharmacists Association. Admittedly, I've been trying to read this and understand it, but I guess from the discussion that the board's attorney just described, am I correct in understanding that this precedential decision will allow the authority of the board to issue disciplinary action against a pharmacist for not disclosing pricing and billing practices as it relates to insure? I'm not understanding that part because the pricing and billing, the pricing of drugs is set with their cost of acquiring plus a dispensing fee, but the billing side of it is not controlled at all by the pharmacy. In fact, most of the time it's operated by either a PBM or the insurance. So I guess I'm not understanding what exactly is the responsibility of the pharmacist now, considering the fact that we've had instances reported to us at CPHA where pharmacists would one day to the next not be in network, not realize it, or not be told about it a few days later. Under that scenario, would they now be considered liable for being, quote, out of network when in fact they thought they were in network? And how does that work? That's what I'm trying to understand here.
Well, that would not be a deceptive practice. Eileen Smiley, could you respond to that?
I think what this case says is that it's going to depend on the facts and circumstances. In this case, for disclosing, we found the judge found that we did not meet our burden on showing that there was an industry or specific requirement under the facts and circumstances of this case that a pharmacist or a pharmacy had to disclose its in or out of network status. What the pharmacy was found to be deceptive about was not disclosing the pricing of its services at the outset of the patient relationship as required by its policies and procedures, which were required by a private accreditation standard. So I don't think the case at this point would stand for the proposition that that there is an industry standard based on this case. However, the reason we don't want to designate that part as precedential is because a pharmacist and a pharmacy's duty can change depending on the facts and circumstances and what its policies and procedures are. Does that answer your question?
Sort of. I guess maybe what I would say is that this seems a little bit more complicated than what I'm realizing, and I would ask the board to delay a decision on this until we can actually have. I mean, it is 4:42 on a Tuesday evening. I don't know how many people are online, but I feel like this should have more debate on this before this is considered a precedential decision.
Thank you, Danny. Do we have
At
any
this-
other comments?
We do not. Would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. And I will now call for vote. Ricardo Sanchez,
Yes.
Debbie Veal,
Yes.
Jason Weiss,
Yes.
Sung Oh.
I'm going to abstain on this issue because I'm not fully understanding the implications. So I'm going to abstain.
Okay. Maria Serpa,
Yes.
Albert Wong,
Yes.
Cheryl Butler,
Yeah.
Jig Patel,
Yes.
Shirley Kim,
Yes.
and I'm yes. And Ryan Brooks has not come in yet, right, moderator?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. The motion passes. Okay, next item would be agenda item 5. And that is, it will provide members with the opportunity to review and consider a site-specific waiver issued to Excella Pharma Sciences. As indicated in the meeting materials, on June 23rd, 2020, the board issued temporary licenses to Excella Pharma Sciences after approval of a limited waiver to BPC section 4129.2C, which allowed for the issuance of a temporary license without an inspection. Consistent with the provisions of a temporary license, these outsourcing licenses will expire on December 15th, 2020. As required for approval of the temporary license, staff receives quarterly reporting of information, including batches produced and sent into California, along with information on batches rejected. This first report indicates that Excella did not have any batches rejected during the reporting period. With restrictions on travel outside of California, board staff have not had an opportunity to complete the necessary inspection. As such, board staff is recommending that the board consider an extension of the temporary license for an additional 180 days from the current date of expiration, unless public protection issues are identified. The meeting materials indicate the potential need for COVID-related products if there is a shortage for patients on ventilators. The memo provides 2 options for our consideration. The first would be to vote to extend the waiver, while the second would be for the board to delegate to the president the authority to extend the temporary license for a period of up to 180 days from the current expiration, if deemed appropriate. With that, I will ask for members' comments.
Greg, this is Debbie. Can you just clarify? So it seems like will the staff continue to request quarterly reporting of batches produced?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I would make the motion to extend the temporary license for 180 days.
Okay. Do we have a second?
This is Cheryl Butler. I will second.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. Let's,
President
any
Lippy?
more member comments?
President Lippy?
Yes.
President Lippy, I apologize. I would like to clarify that the motion to extend is from the current expiration date.
Right, from December 15th.
180 days. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you.
Yes, I'm fine with that change.
Right.
Or that
Okay.
addition.
Thank you. Any other member comments? Okay, let's open up for public comment.
This is the moderator. I've opened the Q&A panel for public comment submission. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. Type, I would like to make a comment in the ask field and submit that to all panelists. We will now pause for a moment to allow time for submission.
Seeing none, I think we should close.
I will close it. It is done. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there's a motion on the floor in a second. So I will call roll. Debbie. Veal.
Yes.
Thank you. Albert Wong.
Yes.
Thank you. Shirley Kim.
Yes.
Thank you. Maria Serpa.
Yes.
Thank you. Cheryl Butler.
Yes.
Thank you. Ricardo Sanchez.
Yes.
Thank you. Jason Weiss.
Yes.
Thank you. Sung Ho.
Yes.
Thank you. Jig Patel.
Yes.
Thank you. And I vote yes. Motion passes. Next item is agenda item 6, Organizational Development Committee Report. As none of the items within this report require action, I will cover all the items and then take member and public comments. First item is budget update and report. Final budget figures for the last 2 fiscal years are provided in the meeting materials for your information. The board's budget authority for the current fiscal year is $29.3 million, which is about a 2% increase from last year. Licensing fees continue to be the largest source of revenue for the board. Personnel is the board's largest expenditure, about 64% of the expenditures this year. A review of our fund condition indicates that at the end of fiscal year 2019-20, our fund was down to 3.4 months in reserve. This is in large part due to a $2.4 million loan to the general fund. It appears that our fund is expected to drop to 2.9 months at the end of this year, with slight increases the following 2 years. We will need to continue to monitor our fund very closely to ensure the financial solvency of the board. Item B, board member attendance record. Attachment 2 provides a summary of our attendance for the last year. Item C, personnel update. The meeting materials indicate the board currently has 11 vacant staff positions. Item D, meeting calendar for remainder of 2020. Attachment 3, our next meeting scheduled for December 3rd. I anticipate that during the meeting we will need to consider waivers that will be expiring in addition to other items. Item E, proposed meeting calendar for 2021. The last item for discussion under this report is the proposed meeting dates for the next calendar year. Until conditions improve, we are unable to confirm if the meetings will be in person or via WebEx. We will continue to use our website and subscriber alert system to keep people informed. Members, do you have any comments on the items that I just read? Okay, let's open up for staff, public.
This is the moderator. I have opened the Q&A panel. If you would like to make a request for public comment, please click on the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" in the Ask field and submit it to all panelists. We will pause for a brief moment to allow time for submission.
Okay, seeing none, let's close it up, please.
The panel is closed.
Okay, next item is agenda item 7, Communication and Public Education Committee. I will now turn the floor over to Ricardo Sanchez, Chairperson for the Communication and Public Education Committee, for an update. Ricardo?
Okay, thank you. This is Ricardo Sanchez, and we're going to start with the update on communication regarding SB 159 related to furnishing HIV exposure and post-exposure prophylaxis, HIV PrEP and PEP. Background: at the January 2020 committee meeting, members suggested partnering with schools and professional organizations to create informational materials for pharmacists about SB 159. The committee also suggested using the board's website, subscriber alerts, and newsletters to disseminate information about initiating and furnishing PrEP and PEP to pharmacists. At the July 2020 committee meeting, staff reported meeting with Please Prep Me, an advocacy group, to discuss collaborating on communications. Please Prep Me went on a hiatus after meeting with staff. However, the committee was advised staff would continue to work with other groups on developing messages about SB 159. The update is staff has issued subscriber alerts informing licensees about the approval of CCR Section 1747, an emergency regulation establishing training requirements to initiate and furnish HIV, PrEP, and PEP as directed by SB 159. The information also is posted on the board's website. In addition, an article about the emergency regulation was published in the September 2020 issue of the Script. The article also reports that the board is developing a training program for pharmacists that meets the requirements of CCR Section 1747. Staff also shared the information about the emergency regulation and board's upcoming training program with the California Department of Public Health, CDPH acronym, to disseminate to public health stakeholders. Okay, board members, do you have any questions?
Okay, seeing none.
Hearing none, can we go to the public for, I don't know, do they have any questions?
Yes.
This is the moderator. I've opened the Q&A panel and we are displaying instructions on the screen. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" in the Ask field and submit it to all panelists. We will provide a short, brief pause to allow time for submission. No requests for public comment have been submitted at this time.
Okay, thank you, Ricardo, for your report.
Well, I'm gonna just touch up on some of the rest of it here.
Okay.
An update on notice to consumer poster. At the July 2020 committee staff meeting, staff reported efforts to survey consumer groups about possible changes to the notice to consumer poster were delayed amid the board's response to the COVID-19 state of emergency. That's the background. Updates. Staff has reached out to the California Alliance of Retired Americans, acronym of CARA, for input on what kind of information would be useful for pharmacy consumers. Jody Reed, director of CARA, advised staff that CARA was active and advocating for the original poster. She said she would discuss the matter with other CARA leaders and provide some recommendations to the board. Staff will also seek out other consumer groups for ideas regarding possible changes to the notice to consumer poster. And the update to the script, quarterly report on communications and training, the website, and subscriber alerts, along with the social media, is all in your packet. If you have any questions on that, please advise. There's also news media inquiries and public outreach on your attachment too. So with that, I will open it up to the board members if you have any questions. I'm trying to just give you an overview of what's happening.
Thank you.
Any board remarks or questions? Okay, hearing none. Public, comments?
This is the moderator. I've opened the Q&A panel for requests for public comments. We're displaying instructions on the screen. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon at the bottom of the screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" in the Ask section and submit it to all panelists. We will provide a brief pause to allow time for submission.
I think we can close.
I will close it.
Thank you again, Ricardo.
Okay, hearing none, President Libby, that's a brief overview of my report. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, next item is closed session. We will be going into closed session to deliberate on disciplinary matters, to discuss pending litigation, and to consider the preparation, approval, grading, or administration of one or more licensing examinations. Thank you all, members of the public, for participation today. The board will recess immediately after completing the closed session this evening. We look forward to resuming our public meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Have a great evening, everybody.